know, man. I tell you,
Nice.
I just didn't have Chris Cornell in me this morning. I hadn't had coffee yet,
You know that I don't know if you realize this, Rob, but that is just such a disappointment for so many of our listeners who anticipate being
That's why they're here.
Yeah,
I see the video drop off now.
That drop off.
Everyone's going to turn it off.
Exactly. Nobody cares about
6 viewers to 2. Yeah.
Rob, next time send your digital twin instead of you and go get coffee. So.
That's right. Wow. That is wrong.
Yeah.
Let me go. I have to fix my lights, guys. I'll be back in.
Okay. No
you
problem.
Fix your lights. But yeah, it's good that Leonard played some Soundgarden. They did get inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, along with their best buddy, Cyndi Lauper.
Cyndi Lauper.
She was that original pop punk. She brought punk to mainstream, right?
He did.
That's what everybody says. Cyndi Lauper brought punk to mainstream.
She's got a great.
She had that vibe, right? I mean, she's kind of weird when she first came out, right? Remember with the wrestler guy, her dad.
But she's got a skin disease. I'm not sure that.
You know what? Maybe she needs some Sky Rizzy.
I'm not sure about that. We might want to.
Of all the people on these calls, Rob, I can always depend on you to finish the line.
Steve and I have a show that we take on the road where we just go back and forth, doing a little comedy.
Just a little comedy.
The interesting thing is, if you listen to a lot of these Cyndi Lauper songs, you hear this male voice in the background oftentimes, and it's actually the lead singer from the Hooters. If anyone remembers the Hooters.
I remember the Hooters.
Okay.
You're going to say Captain Lou Albano was in the background.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah, that's what everybody's about to say. If you remember the Hooters. And the tie-in
we're
there
talking about Cyndi Lauper. I mean, we already gone there.
There's most people who are going to listen to this have no idea who Captain.
They don't even know who Cyndi Lauper is.
Wrestler.
Cyndi Lauper and the Hooters, they're both from Philadelphia, and so which is you don't think of as a hotbed of rock.
Yes. Philly rock. That's a whole scene there.
Yeah. All right.
Not to be confused with Hootie and the Blowfish, but the Hooters were a much shorter-lived band.
That's more a South Carolina college band thing.
That's right. Right. The Hooters. I remember I had a vinyl. I had one of their vinyl records.
Yeah. You never know. All the collabs that were happening back then, Yeah. You didn't have to wait for rap and hip hop lately where it's so-and-so featuring feet.
Yeah.
And then like 30 other people, right? And so there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes, but it is thrilling that Soundgarden is in there, because wow.
Justice.
Are you about to say welcome or something, Leonard?
Something like that. See, now he knows. He knows the drill. He knows the visual cues. Yes. But do you want to do it?
Welcome to IoT Coffee Talk, which is a grunge rock band disguised as a bunch of information-filled tech people, and we play a lot of music. We got a lot of merch, which is kind of like what you expect when you see a rock band. You go to a concert, you're buying merch, right?
$50 T-shirts. We got that.
Band makes all the money. Yeah,
absolutely. That's where it's at. And so
$12 beers.
We're going to be touring this summer. On the new updated Monsters of Rock tour.
That's right. I was going to say on the matinee, it'll say Puppet Show and then IoT Coffee
Show.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
We hope that you come to our concert because the proceeds will go to our charity called Elevate Our Kids.
Yes,
where we're getting some laptops and some internet connectivity to those kids so they can do that homework and be connected, especially if their house burned down in LA, or maybe they got flooded in Nashville, North Carolina, or maybe things burned down, in Lahaina. I don't know. And so we're here to help. And I'm so glad that Marc is here. This makes my day. Absolutely.
Yeah. we want to learn about
for Marc.
Yeah, big time.
Marc has power, it looks like, maybe.
Yeah. No, he doesn't. He has sunlight.
He's working off his battery.
He's going off of what do you call it? Energy harvesting.
Exactly. Oh my god.
Backscatter harvesting.
Oh my
That's
god.
scary, huh?
So how long were you without power, Marc?
I was 11 hours.
Wow.
But not only without power, I mean without any
Everything.
cellular signal.
Oh,
Right.
And then I live some meters in a mountain, so the water pumps stopped working, and actually we didn't have water at night, so like 2-3 hours without water at home.
So this is like a preview of how bad things could get in a future conflict or apocalypse or something.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so
imagine, I have a colleague here based in Madrid that basically, he didn't know where her daughter was or her mother, and so you are not ready to. So if you don't have telephone signal, so you could receive any call, any WhatsApp message or signal or whatever. So what do you do?
What do you do with WhatsApp signal?
Okay, so Leonard and I in a bar at the W the other day were thinking about you going, okay, give us your thoughts on what the hell caused this thing.
Yeah.
What do you think it was, Marc?
I don't know, to be honest. I have been reading a little bit, but not much. But looks like at that moment, Spain was using a lot of solar energy. And at some point, suddenly, so there were not enough combinated cycle generated energy at that moment. So it looks like suddenly, like most of the solar energy that was produced at that moment that was powering most of the country stopped generating electricity.
Wow.
So people say if it was like a big cloud or I don't know, whatever. And because of the generation just decreased so quick, they couldn't start other methods to generate electricity. So
I thought solar farms.
Sounds really weird.
The energy is collected into batteries and other things. So you don't power anything live off of a solar panel. The panel charges the grid, and then the grid then disseminates the energy over time. So I'd be surprised if it was a cloud
or inverter, like all the inverters going. Like we have Tesla solar. They're
inverted
go out all the time, and then they make you wait for 2 months, 2, 3, 4 months to get a new one because they don't want to hold safety stock.
But that's good. We have I can imagine we have kind of Homer Simpson working on those solar farms.
Well, that's a different issue.
Yeah,
he's like eating with his eating his donut, and he his elbow on the
exactly.
And he obviously forget.
That's probably what happened.
And he obviously forgot about the eclipse. So
yeah. So
because he went out to look at the eclipse.
I love the explanation that we lost power because of a cloud.
Yeah,
I was thinking about that. It was a cyber cloud. Yeah.
You know what? All my friends in Texas are going to love that quote. That renewable.
But you don't have clouds in Texas. I mean, in the sky.
Yeah.
Wow.
But Marc, are you also then solar power in Portugal?
No, the thing is that at that moment, Spain was producing so much electricity that it was even exporting electricity to Portugal and France.
That's awesome.
So,
there's an issue with
cut at some point their electricity system or their power system, but they needed to cut with Spain and other countries to don't get.
Yeah, there is an issue with grids not being modern enough to even absorb the solar power that's being generated at certain periods of time. So,
what grid do we know of that is capable of doing that?
And you know what, Bill, Steve and I were talking about you when we were talking about the subject because you're the one that always brings up power. If you don't have power, you have no digital, you have no IT, you have nothing. Right. So
and now more that people just you couldn't pay with credit card. You couldn't do anything.
Nothing.
We saw what happened in Blade Runner 2049.
Mm.
I mean, you saw what happened in Texas
Blackout.
when
Yeah.
Snowmageddon happened.
Yeah.
I mean, accidents
happened
went
as
through
well?
the roof. Traffic signals weren't, so people forgot how to drive.
I saw a picture of Mark. I saw a picture of Mark carrying his gold bars down the street, trying to sell.
The good news in California is that it won't be a problem because people already don't know how to drive, so it doesn't
Yeah,
get
there you go.
Yeah. Way to go, Cali.
But
Have that problem.
imagine the Tesla out
Oh, by the way,
without traffic lights.
I don't know if you noticed, Leonard, at RSA outside, but there was all those Waymo cars.
Yeah, tons of them.
Yeah.
Those piece of, pardon my French, shit in the traffic. It's a nightmare.
Yeah,
They're confused. They
It was
confuse.
horrible.
It's hell.
It was horrible. It was horrible. It was interesting
kill those
because on
things.
Sunday and Monday, it took no time to get anywhere. And then some Monday afternoon, Waymo came and the black cars came and the SUVs came and Christy Nome came and it was just chaos downtown.
Uh,
I mean,
Yeah.
if you listen,
Yeah, but it's really the Waymo thing because you can see those things. They don't really how to insert themselves in traffic like a human would when there is only a couple of inches on both sides. So they're just stuck at intersection, and you will be at
yeah, a
the
human would just lean on the horn and like give him the finger and
yeah. So,
Yeah.
this
Waymo
is
doesn't
the
do that.
exact problem. The exact problem. They're exacerbating the problem.
exactly.
They're
Holy
putting
crap.
these autonomous vehicles out with no V to I. These things don't talk to the infrastructure. The infrastructure doesn't talk to the vehicle.
right. They're it's brute force AI, I would call it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or censored.
If then else. That's what Waymo
In
is.
that situation of tight traffic, there should be a switch that you could turn in the Waymo car that says switch to New York City driver mode.
Yeah.
So they just start
Really?
pushing
New
it.
York mode versus Seattle mode.
Mumbai.
Seattle mode would just sit
Mumbai
there all
mode.
day long.
Seattle has something called the Seattle Surrender, where the car guy just says, "I'm out," and just stops
I can't
driving.
do it. I'll drive tomorrow.
But if you
Nice.
turn it into New York City cabbie mode, they will find a way. They will make it happen.
That's right.
Driving on the sidewalks is legal.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for a little bit needed.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing.
Just
the
for a
thing-
fraction of the time.
Yeah, it was funny, Dimitri, that you heard a lot of honking.
Yeah, which you usually not do that much. in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
US.
You don't usually
not
don't
from
hear that
them.
much. I like angry honking everywhere.
Yeah, that-
And
you're actually
But
right.
humans or machines were angry.
humans.
No.
Totally.
Oh, what the hell are you
No, no,
doing?
The human
Yeah.
honking. You're actually right because when I first started coming to the US, that was a while ago now. Because in Europe we honk all the time in traffic, but in the US people stop because honking means danger. So as a European in the US, I would honk and everything would stop around me. I would say woo.
Oh, yeah.
Except in New York.
Yeah, exactly. Then most
Let me give you a finger.
Yeah.
You do the little tap, little beep beep,
Yeah. But you're right. Seattle, there's no honking. People
No.
are like,
What have I done?
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So is the takeaway from Marc and what you guys are saying is that digital transformation actually makes us more susceptible to complete loss of society and less resilient, less everything? Do we need to go?
I would say actually what we need to do, and actually I just bought one of these too, is you need more batteries. If you're going to have this kind of system, you need batteries built into the system, and you need that battery backup on the cell towers. You need battery backup. Like you need that resiliency built into the infrastructure, like from a regulatory perspective. Like this is where we need to say all the cell towers need this, and then, so that we don't have this. So we have like 12 hours or whatever.
But you just
The cell towers had electricity till I think they had electricity during a couple of hours after the blackout. But after that, probably that was a gas.
This grid resiliency thing, it's a worldwide issue, and like the grids in the U.S. are 50 years old or whatever. So
you said the word. You said the
We
word.
got 80 years of infrastructure that has been band-aid, bubble gummed, and duct taped.
right.
And it's not happening. I mean, the thing about it is like a lot of people don't even want to open up that conversation and say, well, you know what, we really are kind of, excuse me, but we're kind of fucked. And we have to go back to, we almost have to go back to the substation, all the way from the substation down, because energy was only meant to go in one direction.
I know.
Something about putting energy back on the grid.
But you know, the conversation we have in Spain is now, actually, in 10 years, we need to stop all the nuclear power plants. So it's like, how do you want to stop the nuclear power plants?
You need to get them started.
Why is that?
Yeah.
Is that like a environmental?
You know, I think in the 80s, in the 80s, ecologists harm a lot all the society and the society that we live today, right? So they were anti-nuclear power, and that make the world with more pollutant power plants. So this mindset is still in the in the brain of a lot of politicians.
If you think that politicians are sometimes stupid, like an environmentalist or an ecologist politician, and it's stupid to the power of 2. So it's done enormous damage. We have the same problem in France. We are the leading edge of all nuclear power and technology, and now it's all in the toilets because we didn't invest it for 30 years because of those idiots that thought that nuclear was more dangerous than CO2. So it's absolutely crazy.
I agree.
It's a drama.
If we don't do nuclear here, there's no way we're going to handle the electrification of our world in the U.S. I mean, we have got to have that, like you do, the mini nuke sites spread out everywhere. It's the only way we're going to be able to do that.
Mm. But it was super weird. You know what happened? The nuclear power plants with the blackout stopped working. So start on shutting down. And I haven't read about it, but that was really weird. I was expecting that at least they could have been running, right? With the electricity that they generate, at least.
Well, it's complicated systems from what I've seen in France, that they have a lifetime, and extending the lifetime is extremely complicated because you have a lot of systems which are sealed because of the radiation issues. But the drama is also that because we stopped focusing on it, we haven't developed it because they would be much more effective, less dangerous from a pollution standpoint.
Well, there is like Gates Foundation. I mean, there is a lot of investment in next generation nuclear, but it also gets back to the grid issue, like Bill said. Unless you fix the grid issue and rebuild all those substations, it really doesn't matter where the energy is coming from at this point.
Also, you said the word a couple of times, very important, Pete, which I think is one of the big issue when you were talking about digital transformation, Rob. It's resiliency. Right. We do not build system resilient by design in the digital space. That's just the reality. I mean,
too much.
You were mentioning your traffic lights. Traffic lights are actually hardwarely designed so that you can never have 4 red at the same, 4 green at the same time. You can have 4 red but never 4 red. So there are ways to design systems that they are fundamentally resilient. The race to the moon was actually a good example of that. But we rarely apply that across the digital world.
Right.
I invented a new power source from adamantium.
Adamantium.
Whoa.
It's going to solve everything.
That's pretty amazing, man.
You know, if you want to learn more about nuclear power, yes, there's that. I would go on the YouTubes and search for a video called The Nuclear Genie. And it was a short 30-minute video created in the 60s to talk about how pretty soon the whole world will use nuclear energy. It's unlimited and everything. It's the power of the sun, all that. And it's hosted by none other than Mr. Walt Disney himself. And
I've seen that.
It's an educational video. It was actually, I saw it in like junior high or something.
Yeah. You can also go to Gates Notes because Bill's got a fairly recent paper on some of the new nuclear investments happening too. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on out there. There has to be the will to stitch it together and build it correctly. And until then, we're going to have a lot of these.
What you're saying right there is the critical piece. Stitching it together. That's the problem. Is that we've always done things piecemeal.
Well, state by state. That's the issue. Is we have state grids.
Or utility company.
Yeah, and it just doesn't really make sense these days, especially with
the wind. Doesn't that all sound familiar?
Yeah, no kidding.
I think we just get the hyperscalers. I think the hyperscalers, as they're building data centers, should fund the grid investments.
We
That
need
would be a great
a lot
idea.
of infrastructure.
Just get AWS and Microsoft and Google and these folks to put money into the grid, the grid infrastructure for everyone else, so they're not just building private power plants for their private data centers.
Well, that's what I mean. In a way, that's quietly what's happening. And Google Cloud Next, they announced that global something or other. It's a global WAN of some kind. I forgot the name, but it's all built on top of their 2 million miles of fiber.
Right.
So they're investing in a lot of this infrastructure, and so I think a lot of this is quietly happening. Meta, they're doing all the undersea cabling. They're
creating a new utility. That's all. They're going to offer it as a service. I mean,
but the power grid's the problem. Like a lot of the new data centers are being built behind the meter at the power plant site. So they're not investing in the grid. They're like, the grid is for the rest of us. But they're getting their power directly from the power plant behind the meter.
But eventually they'll have to do that because they're going to need to branch out from those data centers, right? There has to be some degree of distribution that happens.
Well, there's data distribution. I guess the question is power distribution. That's
but where is the money? Where is the money for them to build a grid? Where is the money for them? Nowhere. They were never going to do it.
How do you? It's like what Bill says. Yeah, you can't have digital without power.
Need power.
So you follow where the quote unquote digital infrastructure need is, and the power will have to find its way to support that, diffusion, right?
But see, that's the larger issue is, for all of those that are making those infrastructure investments for the purpose of data centers and everything like that, they're doing it as a self-serving thing. They're saying, I want to make sure that I'm in control of this. I want to make sure that the resilience is
my own power plant.
Exactly, for me. And then once we get all of that under control and we have the money flowing in, we're going to offer it as a service, as something else.
The public. Yeah.
Yeah. But but it's not tech for good. It's tech for me.
Well, I think it's going to be, you're going to have power grids. I think what you're going to see is power grids for businesses will be different from power grids from the public. And power grids from the public will be left to the states. Right. And they'll be like those old hanging copper wires with rats eating on them and stuff. And then the businesses will get their power grids directly from the hyperscalers who actually are building nuclear power plants. So that's the future, is that we'll have a stratification of power, and then those at the top will get their power grid, and the rest of us will get another power grid.
Which is why I've been a huge advocate for community energy storage. Yes. We, the people, need to do that for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at that point, we can participate in arbitrage and sell the energy back to the utility.
Let's follow up that again with Marc. So Marc said that everything's shut down. So even if his community had power, cells down, ATMs are down, gas stations are down, grocery POS is down, what good is it if it doesn't? Those
local entities like that, like in the community that I live right now, the community would be the local HEB, the local hospital. All of those would be included in that community energy storage.
Just like a local fire department.
The hospitals have electricity.
You have a local energy department.
Local generators.
If you had your own generator at home, Marc, it was
yeah, of course. But Steve, the thing is that the network was working. The problem is nobody had access to it because of nobody had backup at home. But if you had a backup at home or a generator and your router was on, you could have access to a network.
So self-power, neighborhood power.
This is very interesting, because if you watch some of the early stories about Thomas Edison, his vision was a very distributed local energy generation. The vision was never centralized. It was centralized and grew because that was the easiest, the most economical way to do it. Yeah, that's the point, Pete. It's all about the money. We talk about all the time.
As a shareholder of a utility, a great dividend-paying utility, I'm not sure I give a shit about
Well,
that.
utilities
But
have always been a good blue chip investment.
Exactly. You guys have heard me say over and over again that until we change the definition of MBAs, this world is not going to get better. If the sole objective is to reduce cost and increase revenue, who cares?
There you
Okay,
go.
but let me push back on that a bit, all right? Because PEC is the utility that serves, and they're one of, if not the largest co-op that's in North America. So PEC is a nonprofit.
I didn't know that.
But
That's
their business model is still the same as a profit.
Yeah, it's like OpenAI.
They don't care. I talked to the CEO. They don't care about any of these things. They're like, ERCOT's going to take care of all of that stuff. We're a nonprofit. We're here to serve the people. And I'm like, and your
profits.
Different governance model. Yeah.
But what's the difference with a profitable company?
well, they're not an investor-owned utility,
right?
That has to pay back their investors.
Yes,
They're not maximizing profit
for the people.
They don't have the Pete's knocking on the door saying, "What about my shares and what about my dividends?" That's the difference.
Okay, but from an infrastructure standpoint, physically, there's no difference, right?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
No, there is, because they're not. So look, their smart meter rollout is literally 15 years behind what any other utility has done. And oh, by the way, they picked the worst technology that they could have.
Good or bad?
That's horrible.
Sounds bad to me.
It's horrible. I mean, it's absolutely horrible. So, but what you don't have is you don't have them pushing load control programs on you for, you know, and I mean, and over here in Texas, where you have brownouts and everything like that happening like every summer.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, these microgrids that are more locally controlled with more resiliency seems to be the way to go. But
absolutely, that's that community energy storage solution.
What's the situation in the US? You have a lot of batteries
everything's going great in the US. I don't know if you've heard. We're just firing on all cylinders here.
No tariffs on batteries.
We're firing on all cylinders. That's about right.
That's for sure.
Direction
Something's on fire.
firing.
Yeah,
All cylinders are on fire, I should say. All cylinders.
probably fuel in the end.
But Richard Gere is leaving Spain, Mark. He's coming back to California. So
The American
Holy
Eagle is
mackerel.
coming back. All
Well,
right.
that's a sign of the apocalypse right
There
there.
you go. I love that. Hey, I was wondering.
Looney and his wife, though. You can have him.
I was wondering, just to tie this into IoT, for if you guys could indulge me, if Leonard would let me share my screen. I found a video when I was at Real Time Data in the early and mid 90s. We made a video. It's only 2 minutes to show what our revolutionary technology would do for you. And anyway, I downloaded it. And I'd love to play it. It's only 2 minutes long. If you'll indulge me to kind of get a view of what IoT was
Hands
like.
in a string.
I have a funny feeling we're going to be talking about IoT 7. Is this going
So
to?
that's 30 years ago.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Here we go.
Who gave Rob control? Someone
Can
gave
you
Rob
see it?
control. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see it.
Oh my
there you go.
gosh!
Oh,
So
no.
ghetto.
Look at the
What
graphics of this shit.
There's no sound though.
There's no sound?
No,
No.
you got to put your mic.
Okay, hang on. Let me do the sharing where
Hold on.
it's
Hold
doing
on.
sound. Is
This
it that?
this looks like a very authentic video though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Twizzler.
If I can see the VCR tape artifacts.
Yeah. Wow, 30 cents for a Twizzler. How much are they now?
I don't know.
Those are the days, right?
30 cents.
What if there was a way to increase sales, enhance customer service, reduce costs?
My company is very busy. We do a lot of overtime.
And you can't hear her at all?
No, we
Barely.
can't.
We can hear it. That looks like a Microsoft kitchen.
vending machine to provide snacks for them when they can't get to a deli or a grocery store. This vending machine, there doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason as to how they do stock it. This particular section where they have the Fritos and the chips has a lot of varieties of chips, but how do they really know what's selling and what isn't selling?
This scene was filmed at the Como TV news station in Seattle. This part.
So I'm not sure exactly how they are determining what's important to the employees for the company and what's not.
What if your vending machines were a whole lot smarter? What if there was VendLink? VendLink from Real-Time Data is a complete online information service for the vending industry. VendLink uses wireless technology installed in
There's the antenna.
and user-friendly.
There's the GUI.
Beep bop boop.
Oh, no way, man.
Oh God, you should have seen the one I did for Coke. It was even worse.
Visual Basic or?
Vending industry. Designed by Real-Time Data, VendLink is the first and only wireless information system that gives you complete control of your
Red lights flashing.
What's
Many Fritos being bought.
maximizing sales and minimizing costs.
There's a 90s hairstyle.
Yeah.
And Link.
Time
Look at that. It looks like you're seeing how many cups are in the coffee machine. That would be like a Coke machine.
Time Data's market managers show you how to schedule routes more efficiently. Merchandise
That's actually a good thing. The truck roll management is actually good.
Yeah.
service and maintenance costs. Plus, the VendLink solution can be used with virtually every vending machine ever made.
What?
When your vending machines have this sticker on the outside, you and your customers will know that VendLink is inside, providing exceptional, reliable service 24 hours a day. What if all this were available right now?
What if it was available right now? It is.
Wow.
Wow.
And VendLink is inside, so there's a little guy inside there.
There's a guy inside.
With a walkie-talkie.
Exactly.
He's got a little cooler there. He's just stocking stuff up, and
Yeah. It's a little guy inside.
That's
Yeah.
what autonomous was like back then.
There you go. I
Right.
think Japan solved this like 30 years ago, but that's
Yeah. So then,
We were inspired by Japan, and we had a feeling that in the future there would be more and more and more vending machines, and we were wrong. We thought it's possible the U.S. would follow a similar trajectory as Japan as far as dependence on vending machines, and we didn't.
right.
Yeah.
Well, back when Japan started taking market share on memory chips, remember we got very Japan focused here in the U.S.
Yeah.
and car imports and memory chips.
Yeah.
Everyone got freaked out about the advances Japan was making, and so there was a lot of focus on what they were doing. But
Yeah. And they bought
they have
Pebble
great
Beach.
vending machines over there, but it's a cultural thing too. So
It is cultural.
I remember when VendLink came into Coca-Cola because I was doing the Coca-Cola Enterprises vending machine project back in the 90s. And we had Sierra Wireless air cards stuck in the back of the vending machine with an extended antenna on the top.
right on.
And VendLink came in, and there was no correlation between VendLink and customer care and the truck rolls. You said truck rolls before. That was the only ROI. It was back in the 90s. It was over $300 per Coca-Cola truck to drop off and fill the racks, and that was the ROI. Was just to reduce truck rolls, and that's how the whole freestyle started. All the Coke machines got automated. Refrigeration. We had our refrigerator sensor inside a Coke machine in the 90s was this big.
Yeah.
This big.
And that's how we
remember we used to put the coins down the coin chutes and the dollars. That sensor was this big to know if a jam occurred inside the coin changer.
Yeah.
It was,
My God.
There was so much shit inside that machine. It was ridiculous.
That's how we started. It was to make the whole, because that whole deal, like a lot of businesses actually, is you had route drivers that work for the vending companies. It's a little separate from what Steve's talking about. What we've discovered is, at least this was in the early 90s when we got started, most of the vending machines are not run or owned by Coke or Pepsi or any of those stuff. They're owned by Service America, Aramark. There's all those. Yeah. And so we had to work with these vending companies that were not Coke or whatever. And then I'll throw digital twins into there. You have types of vending machines from different vending machine manufacturers, and that we would get their schematics of what the machine looked like, all the properties and everything. And so we would create kind of a twin of that type, and then you would inherit from it for the digital twin instance of the actual vending machine by that manufacturer out in the field. And so we had to build this whole library of different types of machines that we worked with. Our firmware embedded team were burning EPROMs, if you remember EPROMs, back in the day. And so we had a black
Before
box.
Flash.
Yeah, we have a black box that goes in the vending machine. The primary sensors were actually cables. We bought lots of cabling because remember, vending machines were dumb back then. They're still kind of dumb now, but they were really dumb back then. And so, as you know, when you're getting like a Snickers or any kind of candy, there's a spiral that turns and it pushes it out. So
kind of shake it, dude.
Yeah, and so
Tilt.
there was one scene when one of the route drivers, we had a handheld that we would plug in, and so when they would do a first servicing of the machine and do an initial inventory or putting in stock, they would start off, and so you've got a grid. It's like A1, A2, A3. Going maybe 5 or whatever across and 10 down, and you would define this one is Snickers, this is M&Ms, this is white powdered donuts, whatever. And so you'd say in each row, each spiral, I got 10 of inventory of everything. And so you kind of set the beginning, and then you're underway. And as the vending happens, whenever the spiral for B9 turns and gives you, whatever Snickers, then we our black box with our EEPROM firmware with all the cabling would record that. And so it knows that now you've only got 9 Snickers left instead of 10, that kind of thing. And so we would do that stuff. We did monitor the change box, and so we knew how much money was going in, and we could start to forecast how much money that machine was going to make. We also had alarms like theft. If someone broke into the machine, we would look at that alarms. We also
shake machine.
Yeah, we also monitored on refrigerated machines.
So
like
Pete was always shaking the machine.
Yeah,
always shaking the machine.
If it's a beverage machine like a Coke or Pepsi, we actually monitored the compressor, and we would predict failures without the use of machine learning. Somehow, us cave people were able to do that back in the early 90s. So we would deploy that. The original goal was definitely like stop those excessive truck rolls. And so every morning, a route driver would be in their distribution center, right? And normally they would have their pickup truck and full of all the products, and they would go everywhere and visit every site in their route. Now we would have a report waiting for them that says where to go, what to bring.
Cool.
More importantly, don't go here at all, whatever. And so start the efficiency thing there, right? The $300 like Steve's talking about, the wear and tear on the vehicle, the fuel, all that stuff. And so that was kind of step one. Step 2.
Hey Rob, I'm just checking how much time we have left in the show, but just keep going.
We're gonna go for
20 minutes. We got 20 minutes. Go.
Okay, I'm gonna segue what Rob's saying. The idea of all you people in IoT Coffee Talk land that are watching this is all the experience that you have in this group.
I see.
You want to know all about the history that we have had and all the things that we're doing today. This group of people have got 500 years of experience between this group. So there isn't
100
done in this people in the IoT space.
Speak for yourself, man.
You want to find out how to do something? Here's the.
Steve's got 100 on his own. I mean,
I know. It's freaking fossil.
I think I think what Rob is bringing up too is like these problems that businesses have are kind of continuous. I mean, there's still these problems. It starts with the problem and the job to be done, and then now we have tech to do these jobs more efficiently and more connected. And I can imagine someone's building an LLM into one of these vending machines so he can tell you, I'm out of powdered donuts. I'm out of powdered donuts.
So, here's the weird thing, though. When you listen to Rob's story, we actually haven't come as far as we think. Because, a lot of those problems that they solved back then, we're still trying to implement a lot of that stuff. The economics are different, right? Because when the dot-com era happened, I was working with what's that company? The freaking grocery company, Webvan. And doing some logistics related stuff there with ERP integration, and then they're trying to optimize the route optimization. A lot of the things that you're talking about, Rob. And here's the funny thing about AI and your comment how you did all this amazing things with Unga Bunga technology of the time. One of the things that came out of RSAC is it was eye-opening. A comment made by an engineer who's saying, yeah, with this agentic AI, we're trying to figure out how to make it more differentiated than just programmatic orchestration. And that's not easy.
Yeah.
That is a huge comment.
Yeah.
That one comment. And in other words, we have all this whiz-bang technology, but the problem for everyone and all the hype is that we've already solved, guys like Rob have already solved 90% of the problem. We're changing the economics, but closing that gap on the last, 20, 15, 20, 10%. Still really
the economics is the key thing. Like you were saying, like Webvan, I mean, Instacart today, I mean, this is kind of de rigueur, is like, so Webvan had the right idea. They were solving the right problem. It's just the economics. Yeah. If it doesn't fit inside the ROI envelope, then it just doesn't work. And then now the tech is better to fit inside that envelope.
It's still tough. The economics still suck for all of that.
All right, I want you guys to give me 1 more minute to finish my damn story.
Finish it. 20 minutes left.
Pete, I tried, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, you get 1 minute.
So you saw the first thing was truck rolls, right?
Yeah.
The other big problem is this term, called stockouts, where we've run out of a product. And this can happen in any industry, retail, whatever. So we want to eliminate stockouts. The other thing we learned along the way was you started to learn in real time customer preferences. And so vending machines are in a location, and sometimes there may be an office or you work near there, and we could start to see patterns that people in an office near this vending machines really love white powdered donuts. And they would go, and so we would detect and notice that they're selling at a more accelerated rate. So what would we do? Double up, put deals of white powdered donuts. And so now the vending machine is making more money.
Raise the price of the donuts.
Yeah.
You could do that. And so we made more money. We also saw in real time, what are the losers? What are the products that are not selling at all? And so we could get those out, because a lot of times in vending, and this
sunflower seeds,
you're making a guess of what people want. That like nationwide, we know what people like this. And then you start to have regional or local preferences. And so we could do that. And then we started having the companies that make the products wanting to know about the data that we had. This is when we started going, there's value in data.
The data.
Besides just the transactional kind of thing we were doing. And it turns out Hershey's and Pepsi and all these people like, you have real-time data on people's preferences of what they're buying and what they want. We would love to pay you for that data. And so we were a bunch of cave people that just wanted to stop the truck rolls. And over time, though, we learned we got extra value. And let me show you one more picture. If you can see that picture there.
Hard to edit.
There it is.
I love that hair.
CBS this morning.
Yes. So our stuff was so revolutionary that we were on CBS this morning with Jane Robelo talking about future technologies. I think we were on TV.
Is that Robe IoT, though?
That was like in 1995 when we were on there.
30 years ago.
Wow.
Because we had RF engineers. We had guys from Allied Signal. We had the guys who created the black box for commercial aircraft. We had some of the smartest RF guys. Our backing was McCaw Cellular, which was the first nationwide cellular network, which became AT&T. I mean, we had some heavy hitters. Sometimes you didn't know it. And so the fact that we created our own wireless data modems, because it was still 1G right then, right? And so bouncing off 450 megahertz business radio towers, we used Mobitex, which you may remember for RAM mobile data. That was the first thing used for two-way pagers and the first BlackBerry. And so a lot of cool stuff that people hadn't seen before. And so, it was cool getting to be on TV and do that kind of stuff.
So
it was a brownfield deployment. So you were aftermarket. So we talk about brownfield all the time. That's where the money is like how you add tech. And today it could be adding AI and other things too, existing equipment in the field to solve problems.
We did not have a cloud. We invented all the technology ourselves from scratch. We pulled like you had a PC in the corporate office who owns the fleet of vending machines running Windows 3.1. My involvement was the Visual Basic 3.0 Access to application, like the GUI you see there. We would literally pull the vending machine directly over the wireless network and talk to the black box and retrieve the current state of the machine to know what the inventory. And you kind of see the red, yellow, green, the typical kind of KPIs.
Right.
And so it was a lot of fun. That's where I learned everything from all these guys that I worked with. I was just.
And what happened to the company, Rob?
So we ended up selling it to one of the big vending companies called Canteen, is the name of the company. I'll tell you, sometimes I'll talk to startup founders and tell them about a potential black swan event that could happen for them that you don't see coming. So one of the things that we were doing a pilot in New Jersey with a bunch of vending machines, and it was going really well. We're going to save them all this money. We were also doing that first as a service model. I think we were charging $25 per month per machine, and we had to prove that we were making or saving more than that, right? I remember us going into the meeting with the owners of this company in New Jersey, and we were really confident. We kicked ass, and we were blindsided when they started saying, well, I don't know if we want that kind of visibility in our cash.
The dirty laundry.
And you don't want to know. You can predict how much money we're making. I don't know if I like that. It turns out
it takes a Jersey company to say that, though, Rob.
It turns out we were dealing with the mafia and didn't know it. And so just when you think you've done everything right in your startup and your product, you can still get blindsided like that by people who don't want the magic that your product's bringing.
Too much visibility.
Well, if you are going after the sub-market segment of money laundering, that was certainly not the right product for that.
we were blindsided.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, it was kind of crazy. Also, another lesson we learned, and you may have seen it, any of you who built products and done startups, when you build a product that is going to potentially cause employees to lose their jobs or replace workers, because obviously we didn't need as many route drivers anymore with our technology, right? Well, they knew it. And so the employees would literally sabotage our technology, overtly sabotage it all the time. And because they could see the writing on the wall, they knew what this new technology was going to do.
Replaced by robots.
And I feel like that's where we are today. And I think we've been there all the time.
Oh, that's why that's why truck drivers take out the GPS tracker. They say unclip it today.
Well, that's the Luddites destroying the looms.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
don't think this won't happen with this AI revolution.
Yeah.
And linking your topic. Your topic with the power outage. Actually, today I was reading on LinkedIn a lot of messages related with the SCADA. So your visualization remind me a little bit to SCADA.
Yeah.
And a lot of the press here in Spain are telling power stations are run by ancient technology that it's not designed for 2025 called SCADA.
on AS 400s.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is so funny.
But
I
isn't
forgot
that
all
what
about
we see?
Written by ChatGPT.
We see this in technology and IT departments all the time. They will not spend money on modernizing old technology. They'll run it into the ground.
Well, there's always that, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But in the case of the power grid, it's broke. So it needs to be fixed. And by the way, I think it's an incredible IoT edge opportunity, the whole power space. I talk to students and folks looking for careers all the time, like get into the power business, power grids, automation, telemetry, all that stuff, like have expertise in that space. And there's just a lot of work to do there. And the funding's not there and the will's not there.
That's it's primarily a funding issue problem.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a mafia issue.
Yeah.
Well, dirty laundry issue, right?
The DOE is the mafia. I mean, you start becoming that efficient and you start killing things at the top down.
All right.
But Leonard, I heard we're doing a lot of cost cutting
right now after that comment.
But the
chainsaw, right? Is that what we're doing?
I did work for a startup for Leonard that was in this field of a power substation and things like that. You have some very serious, complicated security problems over there.
Yeah,
seriously. You don't connect that thing to the internet. You don't do that.
No.
You don't do that. Otherwise, you have Spain multiplied by that problem. So,
but it is an opportunity. There is an investment opportunity there. And
going back to when Leonard injected, I think the interesting thing to me is that there seems to be maybe it's an upfront investment or scale problem. Because if you look the way Amazon manages stock today, it's what you were doing Power 10, Rob. So there are companies that do that, but it seems that you need to have a certain level of scale and investment capability to be able to inject those technologies. So there is an entry problem. And connects that to what you said earlier, Leonard. I think the interesting thing with Gen AI, as you say, we're trying to do things we are doing programmatically with languages. But the advantage of doing it with languages is that everybody can express it. So if we can find a way for some small businesses to do, I want you to check my vending machine and look, I have those kind of stock and build me a system that's going to do this and this and this.
There you go.
It works. That's
prompt-based agentic AI. Prompt-based agentic AI.
That's very important. I think in the paradigm shift of computer science is that we're moving from language of specialists. Try to build a system to do with the CI/CD pipeline, with a GitHub, with some container, with some Kubernetes. It's freaking complicated.
Yeah, I would separate the computer science from the application. I think it's important to do that. I just saw a post come out. Someone saying there's a difference, and I say this all the time. There's a difference between the technology and the application of technology, right? And what you don't want to conflate is technology and what's possible or what you can do at the application level and what the role of that technology is, right? It usually ends up being much more narrow at the application level than a lot of folks think. So this is one of the reasons why, oftentimes on our show, we don't talk about digital twins being everything or metaverse being everything. We talk about how these foundational technologies or concepts will somehow be an aspect of a solution or an application. Right. And, what is quite scary is a lot of people, even in the tech industry, don't see that distinction. And this is the reason why is they don't have architectural or systems thinking. They think in terms of components or things right in front of them rather than a holistic system or, an application's architecture. So, I think you need to demystify generative AI and then figure out, okay, where does it actually exhibit and support value creation within that application, right? And there's still too many people say, hey, it's an AI application. There's no such thing as an AI application.
That's not what I was saying here. What I was saying is that totally right, but
sorry, I misunderstood.
What I was saying, and I totally agree with you, but that's actually the point. We are still at a level where if you want to simply build systems that provide business value, you need very strong architectural understanding.
Yeah.
All express into languages and paradigms which are computer science driven. What I'm saying is that, and I'm not saying it's doing it today, but if in 10, 20 years, you can actually just express what you want at a functional level, and the Gen AI does the transformation using proper architectural framework for it.
Right.
So that's the paradigm, the macro paradigm shift I see. Right now, you want a great system that works well, you need strong architects, much more than developers.
You need to get a Rob Tiffany in there.
Yeah. And by the way, the interesting thing is that Gen AI is starting to kill at the low level. And you're right to this point, Leonard. Right now, the solution, Gen AI doesn't solve the architectural problem, but it will solve the components.
What it does? What it's starting to do is kill the question. And the question is more important than, the answer. The answer you're going to have to vet anyways, because you can't trust the answer at the get-go, right?
It depends at what level. I was saying what I was saying is that if you have a strong architecture,
but that goes back to what I was saying before. How does the generative stuff differentiate itself from programmatic when you get to when you start to talk about trustworthiness. Usually the programmatic stuff, it gives you a deterministic answer, right, to solve a problem that that is essentially 1 + 1 = 2. With the agentic stuff, that's totally a different ballgame where it flips. You can trust the outcome of the programmatic stuff. You can't trust the stuff on the agentic. That was another big discussion point that came out of RSAC. And the problem with the cybersecurity community right now, and the dilemma they have with agentic AI, is they still think you trust and verify. One of the things I told almost everyone there that told me trust and verify, I said, you cannot trust. You need to verify, and then you trust the outcome with every instance. And how scalable is that? And you know what they said? Oh, I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah.
I should think about it that way.
And after you told me that on Tuesday, I said it to several people on Wednesday's sessions, and you are 100% right.
And you know, that basic thing, this thing that is very basic, that entire community does not know, because you go out and you listen to people up on stage that say, we trust and then we verify.
Well, I mean, but that's why so much of it just goes out into the wild.
You mean that people lie or do some marketing? Yeah, I mean,
no, it isn't. But this isn't marketing.
I mean, we talked about this on the show. You know, you can talk to. I bet you that 95% of the people who are in AI today never ever read the Wolfram article about how it works inside. They have no clue. They just see the black box that gives them answers in natural language, and they say, oh, he talks to me, it must be right.
Yeah, and Dimitri, I'll take that one step further. Some of the teachings in the computer science and master's degree students that I see on in various classrooms around the country, because I do that a lot with NSF, ask them to say, take your phone and call your grandmother's wall phone. Tell me how it gets from one end to the other. And these are computer science master degree students that have no fucking idea how this works.
That's a problem.
Should they?
Uh-oh, now we're going to get the YouTube.
There we go. Yeah. If they want a job in the industry, yes, Bill, they should.
Ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is
ignorance is bliss.
No, they'll just ask ChatGPT how it works, and they'll come back with the answer.
Yeah. You know, you guys, we're running over, and we didn't even get to talk about IoT7.
Okay.
IoT7?
Yeah,
I got mine.
To talk about IoT7.
Let's talk about 7.1 next time.
Yeah, well.
Oh my God! See,
we should talk more about RSA next week too.
Yeah, we got to do it next week. We talked this whole time about how
like 20 minutes for the
how Marc can use the toilet. Yes,
RSA. Oh God, serious.
But I am thoroughly convinced that Rob is a vampire. You know, this guy has like too much experience. You know, he's probably lived for like 400 years and we don't know it. You know,
that's right. Yeah,
appear at some point and then reappear like 100 years from now.
I'm actually the IoT7 only work on G7.
Yeah.
No, he works on Windows 98.
That's why I showed you the video and everything from 93 to show you IoT 1.0, and now we're launching IoT 7.
I see.
It's exciting times for all of us.
I'm going to wait for System 10. I want to wait for System 10.
Service Pack 1.
7.1.
Rob, did you go to Google? Did you go to GoDaddy and get that domain, IoT7.com? Yeah.
Oh, good idea.
Look at his face.
It's typing.
It's like, oh crap, I didn't.
It's all about the money, Rob. We got to keep going, baby.
All right. I got you. You're right.
Oh my God.
IoT 7 is going to be a big moneymaker.
Yeah. Why don't you take us out with IoT 7?
Yes.
Rob, come on, do your thing, man.
All right. Thanks for everyone joining us. We got to go down a trip down memory lane to see IoT 1 and what the crude early dates, and yet there was value generated then. And then, as Steve illustrated, we've got 500 years of experience with this team. And now that's how we have launched
20% with me.
Yes.
Yeah, so IoT 7, we just launched it. It's incredible. It's using the new HTTP3 quick protocol, TLS 1.3, even more secure. New technology baked in with digital twins. I think it's a security release, actually, to be honest with you. All the anomaly detection and things like that. So
AI native, of course.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, all that stuff, all those sorts of things. And so it's good. Talk amongst yourselves if you need to about this. We're open to, make sure you use IoT 7 in your power substations, because that's where you really need it. And it integrates with Edge AI natively. And so that was another big deal. I remember Pete was just beating up on it. It's like, Rob, IoT 7 series
must be AI native.
AI native. And so it is. And so this is really exciting. Anyway, I know a lot of you went to RSAC this week and you're all freaked out probably. And so don't freak out too much. We've got the solutions to all your problems. And you probably didn't expect that when you lose power, the water is not going to work.
Yeah. Buy buckets.
Buy buckets.
Buy Home Depot buckets.
Exactly. So resilience is the key word. It's going to be more important than anything else, I think, so thanks. Make sure you donate to Elevate Our Kids. Come buy some merch. Go to elevateourkids.org. We're going to help the kids. We're going to help them be resilient too. We're going to get some buckets for them for water as well, and get them educated through strategery. So thanks for joining us, and we will
take any of this seriously.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.